Spontaneous coronary artery dissection, often abbreviated as SCAD, is a unique and often underdiagnosed cause of acute coronary syndrome that disproportionately affects young to middle-aged females. Unlike traditional heart attacks caused by a plaque buildup or atherosclerosis, SCAD occurs when a tear forms within the wall of a coronary artery, creating a false lumen that traps blood and obstructs flow to the heart muscle. Spontaneous coronary artery dissection is the second most common cause of pregnancy-associated myocardial infarction and accounts for up to 14 to 43%. Patients often lack typical cardiovascular risks like high cholesterol, diabetes, or a history of smoking. There is a strong correlation between SCAD and female sex hormones. Events are frequently linked to the postpartum period, multiparity, and occasionally with the use of hormone therapies. A significant number of SCAD patients, that is 25 to 86%, also have fibromuscular dysplasia, a condition associated with abnormalities in artery walls elsewhere in the body. The presentation of spontaneous coronary artery dissection can range from stable angina to sudden cardiac death, though most patients present with the classic myocardial infarction or heart attack symptoms. Diagnostic challenges. Because these patients are young and appear healthy, they are frequently misdiagnosed in emergency settings. Initial screening is with ECG and troponin levels, which show elevated troponin, similar to a typical myocardial infarction. Coronary angiography is required for diagnosis. Spontaneous coronary artery dissection often presents as a long, smooth narrowing, which is type 2 in the classification, which we'll come to later, rather than the focal blockage seen in atherosclerosis. Management of SCAD differs significantly from traditional myocardial infarction protocols. Conservative care. If the patient is hemodynamically stable and blood flow is preserved, watchful waiting is preferred over stenting. The artery often heals on its own within months. Invasive risk. Placing a stent by PCI in a SCAD patient is risky because the guide wire or balloon can extend the tear further down the artery. Since the goal is to allow the artery to heal naturally, the medical approach focuses on reducing shear stress, that is the friction of blood against the vessel wall. Beta blockers are the cornerstone of long-term therapy. By lowering the heart rate and the force of contraction, they reduce the repetitive stretching of the weakened artery wall. Evidence suggests that they may also lower the risk of recurrence. Antiplatelet therapy. Aspirin is usually continued long-term for its protective benefits. P2Y12 inhibitors like clopidogrel are often used for a few months following the initial event, though their use is more controversial in SCAD than in typical myocardial infarction, especially if no. Unlike traditional heart attacks, statins are not routinely recommended for SCAD unless the patient has other reasons for taking them, like high cholesterol or associated atherosclerotic coronary artery disease. Since the issue is a structural tear rather than a cholesterol plaque, statins do not provide the same preventive benefit here. Nitrates, calcium channel blockers, and ranolazine may be used for persistent symptoms. There is a notable risk of recurrence, roughly 10 to 15% over several years, often in a different artery. High rates of anxiety and post-traumatic stress disorder are reported, given the sudden nature of the event in otherwise healthy individuals. Patients are usually advised to avoid heavy isometric lifting, that is training, to prevent extreme spikes in arterial pressure. Pregnancy-associated spontaneous coronary artery dissection tends to be more clinically severe than non-pregnancy associated SCAD, often involving the left main coronary artery and resulting in lower ejection fractions. Here is the SCAD angiographic classification introduced by Jacqueline Saw, which is a standard tool for identifying the appearance of the arterial tear. Type 1. Classic contrast dye staining of arterial wall with multiple radiolucent lumens with or without the presence of dye hang-up or slow contrast clearing from the lumen. Type 2 appears as diffuse and smooth narrowing that can vary in severity, typically 20 to 30 mm long. That is what we discussed initially. Type 3 mimics atherosclerosis with focal or tubular stenosis that typically requires optical coherence tomography, that is OCT, or intravascular ultrasonography, that is IOS, to prove presence of intramural hematoma or double lumen. Because of high association with fibromuscular dysplasia, guidelines recommend that all SCAD patients receive a head to pelvis vascular screening via CT angiography or MRI, latter preferred in younger individuals considering the long-term risk with ionizing radiation exposure. This checks for weakened or irregular arteries in the brain, kidneys and abdomen. Duplex ultrasound is useful in accessible vascular territories and has the advantage of avoiding radiation exposure.